Genesis 17, the covenant that changed everything, retold in a vivid and dynamic storytelling style. Abraham was 99 years old. That's right, 99. His skin was wrinkled, his beard was snow white, and his back ached when he stood too long. But even at that age, his story was far from over. One day, while the desert wind whispered through the tents, God appeared to him. The presence was powerful, like lightning wrapped in peace. "I am El Shaddai, God Almighty," the voice thundered gently. "Walk faithfully before me and be blameless." Abraham dropped to the ground, face down in awe. And then came the promise, the ultimate game changer. "This is my covenant with you," God said. "You will be the father of many nations. Not just a few. Nations, kings, tribes, they'll all trace back to you." Abraham blinked. "Many nations? Me?" Still no son by Sarah. He didn't dare speak. But God already knew. From now on, God said, "Your name is not Abram, but Abraham, father of many." It was more than a name change. It was a new identity. And Sarah, God didn't forget her. "She will be the mother of nations," God declared. "Kings will come from her." Abraham laughed, not out of disrespect, but disbelief. He fell on his face again, stunned. Can a 100-year-old man have a child? Can Sarah give birth at 90? He gently mentioned Ishmael, his son, through Hagar. But God had other plans. "Yes, Ishmael will be blessed," God said. "He will become a great nation. But my covenant will be with Isaac, the son Sarah will bear this time next year." Then came the physical sign, the mark of the covenant. "Every male among you must be circumcised," God commanded. "This will be the sign between me and you, a reminder for generations." Abraham didn't delay. That very day he obeyed. At 99, he himself was circumcised, along with Ishmael and every male in his household. It was the day a new chapter began, not just for Abraham, but for the world. Genesis 18, visitors' laughter in a city on the edge, retold in vivid cinematic storytelling style. The desert sun was blazing. The heat shimmered in waves across the sand. Abraham sat at the entrance of his tent, wiping sweat from his brow, when suddenly 3 men appeared out of nowhere. Not walking up slowly, not calling out from a distance. Boom, there they were, standing right in front of him. Abraham jumped up like a man half his age. He ran to meet them, bowed low to the ground and said, "My lords, don't pass me by. Rest under this tree. I'll bring water, bread, and a feast. Please, honey, stay a while." The men nodded, and Abraham moved like a whirlwind. He told Sarah, "Quick, 3 measures of fine flour, make fresh bread." Then he ran to the herd, chose a tender calf, gave it to a servant, and prepared a royal meal: curds, milk, and roasted meat. The 3 visitors sat and ate. Abraham stood nearby watching. Then one of them spoke. "Where is Sarah, your wife?" Abraham blinked. How did he know her name? "She's in the tent," he replied. And then came the bombshell. "Next year, I'll return. By then, Sarah will have a son." Inside the tent, Sarah was listening. She laughed quietly to herself. "I'm old," she whispered, "and my husband's even older. A baby now? Seriously?" But the visitor heard. "Why did Sarah laugh?" he asked. "Is anything too hard for the Lord?" Sarah, suddenly nervous, stepped out and said, "I didn't laugh." But he looked at her and smiled. "Oh, but you did." The moment passed. The visitors rose to leave. Abraham walked with them. As they looked down toward the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord spoke. "Shall I hide what I'm about to do from Abraham?" He told him everything about the cries from Sodom, the wickedness, and the coming judgment. Abraham's heart raced. His nephew Lot lived there. He stepped forward, bold and trembling. "Lord, will you destroy the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people there?" The Lord answered, "If I find 50, I'll spare the city." Abraham gulped and went further. 45, 40, 30, 20, 10. Each time the Lord said, "If I find that many righteous, I'll spare it." The conversation ended. The visitors moved on toward Sodom, and Abraham stood there alone, watching the desert swallow their figures, praying for mercy. Genesis 19, fire escape and a city in flames, retold in vivid and cinematic storytelling style. Night was falling over the city of Sodom. The streets were still hot from the sun, and the air felt heavy. That's when 2 angels arrived at the city gates, appearing like ordinary men. Lot, sitting there, noticed them. Something about them, something divine, caught his attention. He stood quickly and bowed low. "Please, my lords," he said urgently. "Come to my house. Wash your feet. Rest for the night. You can leave in the morning." At first, the visitors said no. "We'll spend the night in the square." But Lot insisted strongly. He knew what kind of city this was. So they went with him, and he prepared a meal on unleavened bread. They ate in peace, but the peace didn't last long. Before they could sleep, the men of Sodom surrounded them, house young and old from every part of the city. They pounded on the door. Where are the men who came to you? Bring them. Out, we want to have our way with them. Lot stepped outside, closed the door behind him, and pleaded, "Don't do this wicked thing." In desperation, he even offered his 2 daughters. But the mob only grew louder. "Get out of the way. Who is this foreigner to judge us?" They surged forward, ready to break the door down. Then light exploded from the house. The angels pulled Lot inside and struck the crowd with blindness. They stumbled in confusion, unable to find the door. The angels turned to Lot. "Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-law, daughters? Anyone? Get them out. This city will be destroyed." Lot ran to his sons-in-law. "Quick, get up. God is going to destroy the city." But they laughed. They thought he was joking. Morning came. The angels urged Lot, "Hurry, take your wife and daughters and leave now, or you'll be swept away." Lot hesitated. So the angels grabbed them by the hands, Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters, and led them outside. God's mercy pulled them out. "Run for your lives," they said. "Don't look back. Don't stop. Flee to the mountains." Lot begged, "Please, can we escape to that little town, Zor? It's small. Just a tiny place." Permission granted. As Lot reached Zor, fire and brimstone rained down from the sky. Sodom and Gomorrah were obliterated, burned to ashes. Smoke rose like from a giant furnace. The sky turned red. And then tragedy. Lot's wife, overcome with fear or regret, turned back to look. In that moment, she became a pillar of salt, a symbol of hesitation, a warning through time. The next morning, Abraham stood where he had once spoken with God. He looked toward the valley and saw the smoke rising. The cities were gone. But God remembered Abraham, and because of that, Lot was saved from the destruction. Genesis 20, a dangerous lie in divine intervention. Retold in cinematic storytelling style. After the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Abraham packed up his tents and moved south, settling in the region of Gerar. It was a new land, unfamiliar face, and Abraham got nervous. His wife Sarah was still beautiful, even in her old age. And Abraham feared, if they know she's my wife, they'll kill me and take her. So he told everyone, "She is my sister." And just like that, King Abimelech of Gerar took Sarah into his palace. It was happening again. But before anything could happen that night, God appeared to Abimelech in a dream. His voice thundered through the king's mind. "You are as good as dead. You've taken a married woman. She belongs to Abraham." Abimelech bolted upright, heart pounding. "Lord, I didn't know. He told me she was his sister. I haven't touched her." God responded, "I know. That's why I stopped you from sinning. I kept you from touching her. But now return her to Abraham. He's a prophet and he will pray for you." When morning came, Abimelech didn't waste a second. He summoned all his officials and told them everything. The room fell silent, filled with fear. Then Abimelech called Abraham. "What have you done to us?" he demanded. "What did I do to deserve this lie? You've nearly brought disaster on my people." Abraham looked down, ashamed. "I thought there was no fear of God here. I thought you'd kill me for Sarah. And she is my sister, well, my half-sister. Same father, different mother." Abimelech sighed, angry but merciful. He returned Sarah to Abraham and gave him sheep, cattle, and servants. "My land is before you," he said. "Live wherever you like." And to Sarah he said, "I'm giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver as a sign that you are completely vindicated." Then Abraham prayed, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female servants, restoring their ability to have children, because during the whole ordeal, God had closed every womb in Abimelech's household. Now peace was restored, and once again, God protected his promise through a flawed but faithful man. Genesis 21, laughter, exile, and a well in the wilderness. Retold in cinematic storytelling style, it finally happened. After all the waiting, all the hoping, all the impossible promises, Sarah gave birth. She held her baby boy in trembling arms, her heart bursting with joy and disbelief. "God has brought me laughter," she said, eyes filled with tears. Everyone who hears this will laugh with me. Abraham named him Isaac, which means he laughs. And when Isaac was 8 days old, Abraham circumcised him just as God had commanded. He was 100 years old. A miracle had come to their tent. Time passed and Isaac grew. On the day he was weaned, Abraham threw a great feast. But Sarah noticed something. Ishmael, the son of Hagar the Egyptian, was mocking. Laughing, yes, but not kindly. Jealousy sparked. Sarah turned to Abraham, her voice sharp and certain. Get rid of that slave woman and her son. That boy will never share the inheritance with my son Isaac. Abraham was torn. Ishmael was his son too. But that night, God spoke to him. Don't be distressed. Listen to Sarah. I will make Ishmael into a nation too because he is your son. So early the next morning, Abraham rose with a heavy heart. He packed a skin of water and some bread, gave them to Hagar, and sent her and Ishmael into the desert. The sun scorched the earth. The water ran out. Hagar placed Ishmael under a bush and stepped away. I can't watch him die, she whispered through tears. She sobbed, but God heard the boy crying. And the angel of God called to Hagar from heaven. What's wrong, Hagar? Don't be afraid. God has heard the boy. Go to him. Lift him up. I will make him into a great nation. Then God opened her eyes and she saw a well of water nearby. She rushed over, filled the skin, and gave her son a drink. Life returned. Ishmael grew up in the wilderness. He became strong, a skilled archer. He lived in the desert of Paran, and his mother found him a wife from Egypt. Meanwhile, in another part of the land, Abimelech came to Abraham with his army commander. God is with you in everything you do, Abimelech said. Let's make a treaty. Promise you won't deal falsely with me or my descendants. Abraham agreed. But there was an issue. A well Abraham had dug had been seized by Abimelech's men. So Abraham gave Abimelech 7 lambs as a witness that the well was his. They named the place Beersheba, which means well of the oath. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree there and called on the name of the Lord, the eternal God. And he stayed in the land of the Philistines for a long time. A new chapter had begun. A son was born, a servant was rescued, and a promise continued to unfold. Genesis 22, the ultimate test, retold in dramatic cinematic storytelling style. Sometime later, God decided to test Abraham. He called out, Abraham. Without hesitation, Abraham answered, Here I am. Then came the unthinkable. Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love. Go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you. Abraham's heart froze. His beloved son, the miracle child, the one through whom God had promised descendants like the stars. But Abraham didn't argue. He didn't delay. Early the next morning, Abraham saddled his donkey, cut wood for the offering, and took 2 servants and Isaac with him. For 3 days they traveled, 3 long silent days, the tension unbearable. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the mountain. He turned to his servants, Stay here with the donkey. The boy and I will go worship, and then we'll come back. He handed Isaac the wood. Abraham carried the fire and the knife. As they climbed, Isaac spoke, Father? Yes, my son? We have the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the offering? Abraham swallowed hard. God himself will provide the lamb, my son. And they kept walking. At the top, Abraham built an altar. He arranged the wood. Then he turned to Isaac and tied him up. His hands trembled as he placed his son on the altar. Isaac looked up silent, trusting. Abraham reached for the knife. He raised it high. Just as he was about to strike, Abraham, Abraham! The voice from heaven thundered. Here I am, Abraham cried out, breathless. Do not lay a hand on the boy, said the angel of the Lord. Now I know that you fear God. You did not withhold your son, your only son. Abraham collapsed in relief. Then he looked up, and there it was a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. He took the ram and offered it instead of his son. He named that place Yahweh Yireh, the Lord will provide. Shakana, Showan, Sanino. The angel of the Lord spoke again. Because you have done this, because you did not withhold your only. Son, I will bless you. Your descendants will be as numerous as the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore. Through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed. Abraham and Isaac came back down the mountain together. And though the boy had walked up carrying wood for a sacrifice, he walked back down carrying the promise of generations. Genesis 23, a burial, a promise in the first piece of the promised land. Retold in reflective, cinematic storytelling style, Sarah was gone. She had lived 127 long, full years through deserts and kings, miracles and tears. Now the tent was silent. Abraham knelt beside her body in Hebron, in the land of Canaan. His shoulders shook as he wept loudly and bitterly. This was not just the passing of a wife. It was the end of an era. When the tears slowed, Abraham stood. He had one more act of love to offer her, a burial worthy of her life. But he was still a foreigner in the land God had promised. He stepped out and spoke to the Hittites, the people of the land. I am a stranger and a foreigner among you, he said. Sell me a burial site so I can lay my wife to rest. They replied with respect. You are a mighty prince among us. Choose the finest tomb. None of us will deny you. But Abraham was specific. I want the cave of Machpelah at the end of Ephron's field. Let him sell it to me for the full price. Ephron, sitting among the people, stood and answered, No, my lord, I give you the field and the cave. Take it, bury your dead. But Abraham bowed and insisted, Please, let me pay for it. Tell me the price. Ephron smiled and said, Well, it's worth 400 shekels of silver, but what is that between us? Abraham didn't haggle. He measured out every coin, 400 shekels of silver, in front of everyone. The deal was official. So the field of Machpelah with its trees, the cave, and the land became Abraham's. It was the first piece of the promised land he ever owned. Not a throne, not a city, but a tomb. There in the cave, Abraham buried Sarah, his beloved. And though it was a place of mourning, it was also a seat of hope, because God's promise was unfolding, one piece at a time. Genesis 24, a bride for the promise, retold in cinematic storytelling style. Abraham was now old, very old, but God's promises had not faded. The son of the promise, Isaac, had grown into a man. Now it was time for the next step, a bride, but not just any bride. Abraham called his most trusted servant Eliezer, the one who had managed his entire household for years. Put your hand under my thigh, Abraham said, an ancient vow of great importance. Swear to me by the Lord, the God of heaven and earth. Do not get a wife for my son from the Canaanites. Go to my homeland, to my relatives, and get a wife for Isaac. The servant nodded, though the journey would be long and the task uncertain. What if the woman refuses to come back with me, he asked. Abraham replied, The Lord will send his angel before you. If she won't come, you're free from the oath, but don't take my son there. So the servant loaded 10 camels with gift silver, gold, clothing, food. He traveled all the way to Mesopotamia, to the town of Nahor, Abraham's brother. As he approached a well outside the town, evening was falling, the time when women came to draw water. Eliezer stopped the camels and prayed, Lord God of my master Abraham, show kindness today. May the girl who offers me a drink and also offers to water my camels be the one you have chosen for Isaac. Before he even finished praying, a young woman approached Rebekah. She was graceful, strong, and beautiful, carrying a jar on her shoulder. She drew water, and as she passed, Eliezer ran to meet her. Please, give me a little water from your jar. Drink, my lord, she said kindly. And after he drank, she added, I'll draw water for your camels too, until they've had enough. She hurried again and again to the well, filling the troughs. 10 thirsty camels. That was no small task. Eliezer watched in silence, amazed. When she finished, he took out a gold nose ring and bracelets and asked, Whose daughter are you? Is there room at your father's house for us to stay? I am Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel, son of Nahor, Abraham's brother, she answered. Eliezer bowed low and worshiped God right there. Rebekah ran home to tell her family. Her brother Laban came out to meet the servant and welcomed him warmly. At the house, Eliezer told the full story, from Abraham's instructions to his prayer to Rebekah's response. Now tell me, he said, Will you show kindness and truth to my master? Bethuel and Laban replied, This is from the Lord. We can't say yes or no. Rebekah is yours. Take her and let her become Isaac's wife. The next morning, Eliezer was ready to go, but Rebekah's family hesitated. Let her stay 10 more days, they said, but he urged them. So they asked Rebekah, Will you go with this man? She smiled and said, I will go. With her maids and belongings, Rebekah mounted the camel and set off. Back in Canaan, Isaac was walking in the fields, meditating as the sun dipped low. He looked up and saw the caravan approaching. Rebekah saw him too. She dismounted and asked, Who is that man walking toward us? He is my master, Eliezer replied. She covered herself with a veil. When Eliezer told Isaac everything, Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother Sarah's tent. He married her, and he loved her. And in that love, Isaac found comfort after the loss of his mother. A new generation was beginning. The God of Abraham was now guiding the life of Isaac, and it had all begun with a prayer at a well. Genesis 25, the end of a patriarch and the birth of a rivalry. Retold in vivid storytelling style, Abraham's story was nearing its end, but he wasn't done just yet. After Sarah's death, he took another wife, Keturah. She bore him 6 more sons, Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Nations would come from them too. But still Isaac was the son of the promise. Before Abraham died, he gave gifts to the sons of his concubines and sent them away, far east away from Isaac. He was making it clear the covenant flowed through Isaac alone. Abraham lived 175 years. Then, full of days and full of faith, he breathed his last and was gathered to his people. His sons Isaac and Ishmael reunited for one sacred memento, bury him beside Sarah in the cave of Machpelah. And with Abraham gone, God blessed Isaac. The story was now his to carry forward. Meanwhile, Ishmael's line grew strong. 12 sons, 12 princes, each became a tribe. Just as God had promised Hagar in the wilderness, Ishmael became a great nation. He lived 137 years and died, and his descendants settled from Havilah to Shur, near Egypt to side, the land of promise. Now the spotlight turned to Isaac and to his wife Rebekah. She couldn't have children, but Isaac prayed and God listened. Soon Rebekah was pregnant with twins. But something was wrong. There was a struggle in her womb. She asked God and he answered, 2 nations are in your womb. 2 peoples will be separated from within you. One will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. When the time came, the first baby emerged red and hairy all over. They named him Esau. Then came his twin grasping Esau's heel. They named him Jacob, the one who grabs. Esau grew up wild and strong, a skillful hunter, a man of the field. Jacob was quiet, thoughtful, a man of the tents. Isaac loved Esau because of the wild game he brought home. But Rebekah loved Jacob. One day Esau came in from the field starving. Jacob was cooking stew. Esau demanded, Give me some of that red stuff. I'm about to die. Jacob looked up slowly. Sell me your birthright first. Esau scoffed. What good is a birthright if I starve? Swear it, Jacob said. And Esau swore. He sold his birthright for a bowl of lentil stew and some bread. He ate, drank, got up, and left. And just like that, he despised the inheritance that was meant to be his. The rivalry had begun, and the future of nations hung on 2 brothers and one impulsive deal. Genesis 26, Wells warnings and a whispered promise, retold in cinematic storytelling style. There was a famine in the land, just like in Abraham's time. And now Isaac stood at the same crossroads. Should he go down to Egypt like his father once had? But before he moved, God spoke, Do not go to Egypt. Stay where I tell you. Live in this land as a foreigner, and I will be with you and bless you. I swore to your father, Abraham, I will give this land to you and your descendants. It was a moment of confirmation. Isaac stayed in Gerar, in Philistine territory, just as God commanded. But fear crept in. Rebekah was beautiful, and Isaac, remembering his father's mistakes, made the same one. He told the men of Gerar, She is my sister. He feared they would kill him to take her. But one day King Abimelech looked out his window. and saw something. Strange Isaac laughing and caressing Rebekah. Not something a brother would do. Abimelech summoned Isaac. "She's your wife. Why did you lie?" Isaac replied, "I was afraid I'd be killed because of her." The king ordered his people, "Anyone who harms this man or his wife shall be put to death." Despite the awkward beginning, Isaac thrived. He planted crops and in the same year reaped 100-fold. God was with him. His wealth grew, flocks, herds, servants, and the Philistines began to envy him. They blocked up the wells his father's servants had dug. Abimelech came to him and said, "You're too powerful. Leave us." So Isaac moved to the valley of Gerar and dug again. The wells his father had once dug, reclaiming the names Abraham had given them. But the conflict didn't end. At Esek, the locals argued with him. "This water is ours." He moved on and dug another sitna. Another fight. So he moved again and dug a third well. No one quarreled. He named it Rehoboth, saying, "Now the Lord has given us room, and we will flourish in the land." Then Isaac went up to Beersheba. That night the Lord appeared to him and whispered a familiar promise. "I am the God of your father Abraham. Do not be afraid. I am with you. I will bless you and multiply your descendants for my servant Abraham's sake." Isaac built an altar, called on the name of the Lord, and pitched his tent, and there his servants dug another well. Soon Abimelech came to visit with his military commander. Isaac was confused. "Why are you here? You sent me away." Abimelech replied, "We see plainly that the Lord is with you. Let there be peace between us." So they made a treaty, a covenant of peace. The very same day, Isaac's servants came running. "We found water." Isaac named it Shibahan to this day. The town is known as Beersheba, the well of the oath. But as the land flourished, Esau brought grief to the family. At 40, he married 2 Hittite women. And to Isaac and Rebekah, they were a source of bitter pain, blessing, struggle, peace, and a hint of family tension. The story of Isaac was not grand like Abraham's, but it was faithful. And in quiet obedience, he carried the promise forward. Genesis 27, the stolen blessing, retold in dramatic storytelling style. Isaac was old. His eyesight had faded. His hands trembled. He could no longer see the faces of his sons. Sensing his time was near, he called out, "Esau, my son." Esau entered, strong and hairy, his voice deep. "Here I am, father." "I'm old," Isaac said. "I don't know how much longer I have. Take your bow. Hunt wild game for me. Make the savory food I love. Then I will bless you before I die." Esau smiled and left at once. But someone had been listening, Rebekah. As soon as Esau left, Rebekah rushed to her younger son. "Jacob, I heard your father. He's about to bless Esau. We have to act fast. Go get 2 goats, I'll cook them just the way your father likes." Jacob blinked. "But Esau's hairy and I'm not. What if he touches me? He'll curse me instead of bless me." Rebekah's eyes narrowed. "Let the curse fall on me, my son. Just do what I say." So Jacob did. He brought the goats. Rebekah cooked the meal. Then she dressed Jacob in Esau's clothes and covered his hands and neck with goat skin. She handed him the food and whispered, "Go to your father." Jacob entered the tent, heart pounding. "My father, who are you, my son?" "I am Esau, your firstborn," Jacob lied. "I've done as you asked. Please eat and bless me." Isaac was suspicious. "How did you hunt so quickly?" "The Lord your God gave me success," Jacob replied. Isaac leaned forward. "Come closer. Let me feel you." Jacob stepped in. Isaac touched the goatskin hands. The voice is Jacob's, but the hands are Esau's. Still unsure, he asked again, "Are you really my son, Esau?" "I am." So Isaac ate. He drank wine. Then he said, "Come, my son, and kiss me." As Jacob kissed his father, Isaac smelled Esau's clothes, the scent of the open fields. Finally, he raised his hands and blessed him. "May God give you the dew of heaven, the richness of earth, abundance of grain and wine. May nations serve you. Be Lord over your brothers. Cursed be those who curse you, blessed be those who bless you." Jacob left quietly just in time. Moments later, Esau returned. He prepared the food and entered joyfully. "Father, sit up and eat. I've brought your game." Isaac froze. "Who are you?" "I'm Esau, your firstborn." A terrible silence fell. Isaac trembled violently. Then who was just here? He brought food, and I blessed him, and indeed he is blessed. Esau let out a loud, bitter cry. Bless me too, my father. But Isaac could not undo what was done. Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing. Esau wept. Haven't you saved even one blessing for me? Isaac replied. I made him master over you. I gave him grain and wine. What is left for you, my son? Esau begged again. And finally Isaac said, You will live away from the earth's richness, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw off his yoke. From that day on, Esau hated Jacob. He whispered in anger, When father dies, I'll kill my brother. But Rebekah heard. She ran to Jacob. You must run to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay there until Esau cools down. Then she went to Isaac and said, I'm sick of these Hittite women. I don't want Jacob to marry one of them. Send him to my family to find a wife. And so Jacob the deceiver fled. But what he didn't know was this. He was running not just from danger, but toward destiny. Genesis 28, the dream in the desert, retold in vivid storytelling style. Before Jacob left, Isaac called him. This time there were no lies, no disguises, just a father and his son face to face. Isaac looked at him and spoke with purpose. Don't marry a Canaanite woman. Go to Paddan Aram to your mother's family. Find a wife from your uncle Laban's daughters. May God Almighty bless you, give you many descendants, and pass on the promise given to Abraham. Then Isaac sent him off. So Jacob alone and uncertain began his journey. Meanwhile, Esau noticed something. His parents disliked his Canaanite wives. So he married another Mahalath, a daughter of Ishmael, trying to win their favor. But the story followed Jacob. The sun dipped below the hills. Jacob, tired from the journey, stopped for the night near a place called Luz. With nothing but a stone for a pillow, he lay on the ground, wrapped in silence. And then he dreamed. A ladder stretched from earth to heaven, and angels were moving up and down on it. At the very top stood the Lord. He spoke, Son, I am the Lord, the God of Abraham and Isaac. I will give this land to you and your descendants. Your offspring will be like the dust of the earth, spreading west, east, north, and south. And through you, all nations will be blessed. I am with you. I will watch over you wherever you go. I will bring you back to this land. I will never leave you. Jacob woke up with a gasp, his eyes wide, heart pounding. Surely the Lord is in this place, and I didn't know it. He stood up and trembled. This is none other than the house of God, the gate of heaven. He took the stone he'd used as a pillow, stood it upright, and anointed it with oil. He renamed the place Bethel, House of God. Then he made a vow. If God will be with me, give me food and clothes, and bring me safely back, then the Lord will be my God. And this stone will be his house. And of all you give me, I'll give you a tenth. Jacob walked away changed, still alone, still uncertain. But no, he wasn't just running from something, he was walking with someone. Genesis 29, love, deception, and the beginning of 12. Retold in vivid storytelling style. Jacob continued his journey, the dream at Bethel still echoing in his heart. He traveled east, across desert and hills, until he came to a well in a field. There, flocks of sheep were gathered, and 3 groups of shepherds stood nearby. Jacob approached them. My brothers, where are you from? We're from Haran, they replied. His heart skipped. This was the place. Do you know Laban, son of Nahor? We do, they said. In fact, look, here comes his daughter, Rachel, with the sheep. Jacob turned and the world slowed. Rachel, beautiful, confident, moving gracefully with the flock. The moment he saw her, he knew. Jacob stepped forward. Without waiting, he rolled the heavy stone from the mouth of the well, something no single man usually did alone. He watered her sheep. Then he kissed her, and he wept. I am Jacob, he told her, your relative, the son of Rebekah. Rachel ran home to tell her father. When Laban heard the news, he ran to meet Jacob, embraced him, and welcomed him into the house. Jacob stayed a month, working hard every day. Then Laban said, you shouldn't work for free. What do you want as your wages? Jacob didn't hesitate. I'll serve you 7 years for Rachel. Laban smiled. Better I give her to you than another. Stay with me." So Jacob served 7 years, but they felt like only a few days because of his love for her. Finally, he said, "The time has come. Give me my wife." A feast was prepared. The night came. The wedding happened. But in the darkness, Laban deceived him. He gave Jacob Leah, his older daughter, not Rachel. And Jacob didn't realize it until morning. He stormed to Laban. "What have you done? I worked for Rachel. Why did you trick me?" Laban shrugged. "In our culture, the older daughter must marry first. Finish this bridal week, then I'll give you Rachel. 2 if you serve me another 7 years." So Jacob agreed. 1 week later, he married Rachel. But the love was unequal. He loved Rachel more than Leah. God saw that Leah was unloved. So he blessed her with children, while Rachel remained barren. Leah gave birth to Reuben. "The Lord has seen my misery. Simeon, the Lord heard I am not loved. Levi, now my husband will be attached to me. Judah, this time I will praise the Lord." And then she stopped bearing children, at least for now. So Jacob's story twisted further. 1 man, 2 wives, 1 beloved, 1 rejected. And from their rivalry, a nation was beginning to form. Genesis 30, rivalry, redemption, and a flock that multiplied. Retold in cinematic storytelling style. Rachel was tired of watching Leah hold child after child. The joy on Leah's face, the way Jacob looked at the sons he never expected from her, it burned. One day, Rachel exploded. "Give me children or I'll die." Jacob, frustrated and helpless, replied, "Am I God? Am I the one who's keeping you from having children?" But Rachel had a plan. She handed him Bilhah, her servant. "Sleep with her," she said. "She will bear children on my behalf." Bilhah gave birth to, "Then God has vindicated me. Naphtali, I have wrestled with my sister and won." Rachel smiled, finally feeling like she was catching up. But Leah, not one to be outdone, gave Jacob her servant to Zilpah. And Zilpah gave birth to Gad. "What good fortune! Asher, how happy I am." The house was overflowing with Babysons everywhere. Still, the rivalry raged on. One day, Reuben, Leah's firstborn, went into the fields and found mandrakes, a fruit believed to boost fertility. Rachel saw them and said, "Give me some of your son's mandrakes." Leah shot her a look. "You took my husband, now you want my son's mandrakes too?" Rachel bargained. "Jacob can sleep with you tonight in exchange for the mandrakes." So that night, Leah met Jacob in the field. "You must sleep with me," she said boldly. "I've hired you with my son's mandrakes." And Jacob did. God honored Leah. She gave birth to Issachar. "God has rewarded me." Zebulun, "God has given me a good gift." And then a daughter, Dinah. The not last, God remembered Rachel. He listened. He opened her womb. She gave birth to a son and named him Joseph. "May the Lord add to me another." Her heart, long aching, now overflowed with hope. Time passed. Jacob said to Laban, "Let me go. I've worked all these years. Give me my wives and children, and let me return home." But Laban didn't want him to leave. "I've learned I'm blessed because of you," Laban admitted. "Name your wages." Jacob made a bold request. "Let me keep all the speckled, spotted, and dark-colored animals born from your flocks. That will be my pay." Laban agreed, but secretly removed all such animals that day, sending them far away so Jacob couldn't breed them. He thought he was clever, but Jacob had a plan. He set up fresh-cut branches near the watering troughs, where strong animals mated. By God's mysterious blessing, they gave birth to streaked and speckled offspring. Jacob separated the weak animals from his own flock, giving only the strong to his herds. Over time, Jacob's herds grew huge. He became exceedingly prosperous with large flocks, servants, camels, and donkeys. The man who had arrived with nothing now had everything. Not through deceit, not through luck, but through persistence, wisdom, and the favor of God. Genesis 31, flight, fury, and a covenant in the mountains. Retold in vivid storytelling style. Whispers filled the air. "Jacob has taken everything from our father," Laban's sons grumbled. "All his wealth, it's Jacob's now." Jacob noticed the looks, the tension. Laban's attitude had changed. Then God spoke. "Return to the land of your fathers and your kindred. I will be with you. So Jacob made a plan. He called Rachel and Leah out to the fields away from prying ears. Your father's face is not the same toward me, but God has been with me. You know how hard I've worked for him. He reminded them how Laban changed his wages 10 times, trying to cheat him, but every time, God turned it around. If he said, the speckled ones will be your wages, all, the flocks bore speckled young. If he said, the striped ones, then striped they were. God protected me. Then Jacob told them about a dream God, showing him the rams mating with the flocks and saying, I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a stone and made a vow. Now get up, leave this land. Go back to your homeland. Rachel and Leah looked at each other and nodded. We have no inheritance here. Our father treats us like strangers. Everything God gave you, it's ours too. Let's go. So Jacob didn't wait. While Laban was off shearing sheep, Jacob gathered his family, his flocks, his servants, and fled. Crossing the Euphrates, they headed for the hill country of Gilead. But Rachel had taken something more, her father's household. Idols, and said nothing. 3 days later, Laban found out. Furious, he gathered his relatives and pursued them 7 days through the wilderness. On the 7th night, just before confrontation, God appeared to Laban in a dream. Be careful not to say anything to Jacob, good or bad. The next morning, Laban caught up. Jacob's camp was spread out in the hills, unaware. Laban arrived, fuming. What have you done? You tricked me. You took my daughters like captives. Why didn't you let me send you off with joy and music? He leaned in. I have the power to harm you, but your God warned me last night. He looked around, eyes narrowing. But why did you steal my gods? Jacob, not knowing Rachel had them, answered boldly. If you find anyone here with your gods, they shall not live. Search for yourself. Laban searched every tent. He reached Rachel's, but she was sitting on the saddle of a camel, with the idols hidden underneath. Forgive me, father, she said sweetly. I can't rise before you, I'm unwell. Laban searched and found nothing. Now Jacob exploded. 20 years I served you. 14 for your daughters, 6 for your flocks. You changed my wages 10 times. If God hadn't been with me, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God saw my hardship and rebuked you last night. Laban's anger cooled. Reality sank in. These women are my daughters. The children, my grandchildren. But today, what can I do? So he made a proposal. Let's make a covenant. They gathered stones and built a heap. Jacob called it Galid Lab and called it Jegar Sahadatha. Both meant witness heap. Laban said, this heap is a witness between us. May the Lord watch between you and me while we are apart. Karnfurn. They agreed to birds. Jacob would never mistreat Laban's daughters. Neither would cross the heap to harm the other. Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain. They shared a meal. The next morning, Laban kissed his daughters and grandchildren goodbye and returned home. Jacob had escaped, not by force, not by trickery, but by faith in the God who keeps his word. Genesis 32, the wrestling in the new name, retold in cinematic storytelling style. Jacob was on his way home, but home meant one thing, Esau, the brother he had tricked, the brother who had once vowed to kill him. Jacob sent messengers ahead to Esau in the land of Seir. Their message was humble. Your servant Jacob is returning. He has oxen, donkeys, flocks, and servants. He hopes to find favor in your eyes. The messengers came back pale and breathless. Esau is coming with 400 men. Jacob's heart stopped. Was this a welcome party or an army? Fear took over. He divided his people and flocks into 2 camps. If Esau attacks one group, the other may escape. Then he dropped to his knees and prayed, O God of my father Abraham, you told me to return home, and you promised to bless me. I'm unworthy of all your kindness. Please save me from Esau. I fear he will attack us, even the mothers and children. But you said you would make my descendants like the sand of the sea. Then Jacob prepared a gift and offering of peace. Hundreds of animals, 200 female goats, 20 male goats, 20 rams, 30 camels with their young, 40 cows, 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys, 10 male donkeys. He sent them off in waves, each group with a message. These belong to your servant Jacob. They are a gift for my lord Esau. He is coming behind us. He hoped to soften Esau's heart with generosity before reunion. That night, Jacob sent his family and possessions across the river. And then he stayed behind, alone. The air was still, the stars silent. And then a man appeared. He said nothing, but suddenly they began to wrestle. All night long they struggled. Grit, sweat, silence. Jacob wouldn't let go. This was no ordinary man. As dawn approached, the man touched Jacob's hip, and instantly it was dislocated. Still Jacob held on. "Let me go, for the dawn is breaking," the man said. Jacob gritted his teeth. "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked, "What is your name?" Jacob, the deceiver, the heel grabber. Then came the turning point. "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with men and have overcome." Jacob gasped, "Please tell me your name." But the man replied, "Why do you ask?" And then he blessed him there. Jacob named the place Peniel, Face of God. "I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." As the sun rose, Jacob limped away forever changed, not just in body, but in soul. He left the river not as Jacob the trickster, but as Israel, the one who wrestled with God and lived. Genesis 33, the embrace that changed everything, retold in cinematic storytelling style. The morning sun rose over the hills of Seir. Dust swirled as Jacob looked up and saw him. Esau, coming toward him with 400 men. Jacob's breath caught in his throat. Was this it? The day his past would catch him? He quickly arranged his family, the most vulnerable, at the back. First, the servant women and their children, then Leah and her children, and finally Rachel and Joseph, the ones he cherished most. Then Jacob did something unexpected. He walked out ahead of them all, and as Esau approached, Jacob bowed to the ground. "Once, Señor." Twice, 3 times, one in arms. 4 in a turn, 5, 6, and then 7. Complete submission. But Esau didn't draw a sword. He didn't shout. He ran. He ran toward Jacob and embraced him. He threw his arms around his brother's neck, kissed him, and they wept. Esau looked around. "Who are all these people with you?" Jacob smiled through tears. "They are the children God has graciously given your servant." One by one, the families came forward, bowing in respect. Then Esau saw the long line of animals Jacob had sent ahead. "What's the meaning of all these herds I met?" "They're a gift," Jacob replied, "to find favor in your eyes." Esau shook his head. "I already have plenty, my brother. Keep what you have." But Jacob insisted, "Please accept this gift. Seeing your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have welcomed me, God has been good to me. I have all I need." So Esau accepted. Esau said, "Let's be on our way. I'll walk with you." But Jacob hesitated. "My children are young and my flocks are tender. If we push too hard, they'll die. You go ahead. We'll follow at our own pace." Esau offered to leave some of his men to guide them. Jacob declined gently. So Esau returned to Seir, and Jacob slowly made his way to Sukkoth, where he built shelters for his family and livestock. Eventually, he arrived safely in Shechem, in the land of Canaan. There, he bought a plot of land and set up an altar. He named it El Elohi Israel, God, the God of Israel. The man who once fled in fear now stood in peace, because grace had met him in the form of forgiveness. Genesis 34, defilement, deceit, and a deadly revenge, retold in dramatic storytelling style. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, went out one day to see the women of the land. She wandered into Shechem, curious, maybe even hopeful, in a world where her brothers ruled the tents. But then it happened. Shechem, the son of Hamor, the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her and seized her. He violated her, but strangely, after his violence, he loved her. He spoke tenderly to her and begged his father, "Get me this girl as my wife." When Jacob heard that Dinah had been defiled, he was silent. His sons were in the fields with the livestock. He waited, but when they returned and heard what had happened, they were furious, outraged. A holy anger burned in their hearts. "This is a disgrace. This must not be done in Israel." Then Hamor came to speak with Jacob. "My son Shechem longs for your daughter. Let's intermarry, give us your daughters, and take ours. Dwell among us, traits and prosper." Shechem himself added, "Let me find favor with you." Name your price, I'll pay anything for her. Then Jacob's sons spoke up, but not with their hearts. They spoke with deceit. We can't give our sister to an uncircumcised man. That would be a disgrace. But if all your men are circumcised, then we will intermarry and become one people. Hamor and Shechem agreed immediately. They convinced all the men of their city, these people are peaceful. Let's do as they say. We'll gain their livestock, their property, everything. So all the men of Shechem were circumcised. 3 days later, when the pain was at its worst, 2 brothers, Simeon and Levi, Dinah's full brothers, took their swords. They entered the unsuspecting city, and they killed every male. They killed Hamor. They killed Shechem. They rescued Dinah from Shechem's house. Then the rest of Jacob's sons came and plundered the city. Flocks, tons, herds, herds, donkeys, worry, wealth, children, women, everything. When Jacob found out, he was horrified. You have brought trouble on me. The Canaanites and Perizzites will turn against us. We are few, they could destroy us. But Simeon and Levi looked him in the eye and said, should he have treated our sister like a prostitute? The chapter ends not with peace, but with a question, a scar. Was it justice or vengeance? Was it loyalty or wrath unchecked? Whatever it was, it would not be forgotten. Genesis 35, return, redemption, and farewell, retold in emotional storytelling style. After the chaos of Shechem, God spoke. Jacob, arise, go up to Bethel and settle there. Build an altar to the God who appeared to you when you fled from Esau. Jacob heard, and this time he responded without hesitation. He turned to his household, his sons, his servants. Get rid of your foreign gods. Purify yourselves. Change your clothes. We're going back to Bethel, back to where it all began, back to the place where heaven once touched earth. They gave him all their idols, even the earrings linked to pagan worship. Jacob buried them under the oak tree near Shechem. Then they moved. And as they traveled, the terror of God fell on all the surrounding cities. No one dared pursue them. At last they reached Luz, also called Bethel. There Jacob built an altar. He called it El Bethel, God of the house of God, because there God had met him when he was a broken man running for his life. Then came sorrow. Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died. They buried her under an oak below Bethel and named it Allon Bachuth, Oak of Weeping. But God wasn't finished. He appeared to Jacob again. Your name is Jacob, but no longer. Your name shall be Israel. God reaffirmed the promise. I am God Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a community of nations shall come from you. Kings will be among your descendants. The land I gave to Abraham and Isaac now give to you. And then God ascended. Jacob set up a stone pillar to mark the place. He poured out a drink offering. He anointed it with oil. And he called the place Bethel again. But the road ahead still had pain. As they journeyed from Bethel, Rachel went into labor. Hard labor. She struggled. And as her soul slipped away, she gave birth to a son. With her final breath, she named him Ben-Oni, son of my sorrow. But Jacob called him Benjamin, son of my right hand. They buried Rachel on the way to Ephrath, that is, Bethlehem. Jacob set a pillar on her grave, and it stood for generations. Tragedy struck again. Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, slept with Bilhah, his father's concubine. And Jacob heard of it but said nothing. Not yet. Then Jacob came home to Isaac. The old man, now blind and frail, had lived long enough to see his wandering son return. And soon after, Isaac breathed his last. He died at 180 years old and was gathered to his people. And in one of the Bible's quietest, most healing moments, Jacob and Esau came together again to bury their father. Grief, grace, and God's promise, woven together on the road back to Bethel. Genesis 36, the other nation, Edom's legacy, retold in narrative storytelling style. Before the spotlight shifts to Joseph, the story pauses. Not for Israel, but for Esau, the brother who once wept over a stolen blessing, the man who forged his own path in the rugged land of Seir. This is his legacy. Esau, also called Edom, took his wives from the land of Canaan. Ada, daughter of Elon the Hittite, Oholibama, granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite, Basemath, daughter of Ishmael. These women bore him sons, Eliphaz, Reuel, Yush, Jalam, and Korah. Their descendants would grow into clans, chieftains, and kings. Esau's family became too large to stay with Jacob in the land of Canaan. Their possessions were many, their herds vast. So Esau settled in the hill country of Seir, away from his brother. It became known as the land of Edom. The chapter continues like a roll call of rising leaders. The sons of Eliphaz Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. A concubine named Timnah gave birth to Amalek, father of a fierce future people. The sons of Reuel, Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. And on it goes, chiefs and clans, each forming their own legacy in Edom. Then the record shifts to those who lived in Seir before Esau arrived. The Horites. Their land was overtaken, but their names remain. Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Dishon, Ezer, and Dishan. A people with a past swept up by the growing power of Edom. Then the unexpected. Kings. Before Israel ever had a single king, Edom already had monarchs, rulers with cities, territories, and power. Each one ruled and then was replaced. A cycle of rise and fall like the nations to come. The chapter ends with one final list: chiefs of Esau, grouped by family, dwelling places and land, a full picture, a complete nation. Esau, the man once ruled by anger, now became the founder of Edom. His story, though different from Jacob's, was not forgotten. He was not the chosen line of the covenant, but he was still blessed, still fruitful, still great. Sometimes the promise of God looks different, but his word never returns empty. Genesis 37, dreams, jealousy, and a pit in the desert. Retold in cinematic storytelling style. Jacob settled in the land of Canaan, the land his father had lived in. But this story, it wasn't about Jacob anymore. It was about Joseph. Joseph was 17, young, wide-eyed, full of energy. He worked alongside his older brothers, the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah. But Joseph often returned home with bad reports about them. And Jacob? He loved Joseph more than any of his other sons, because he had been born to him in his old age by Rachel. To show his love, he gave Joseph a richly ornamented robia coat of many colors. The brothers saw it. They saw the robe. They saw the favoritism, and they hated him for it. They couldn't even speak a kind word to him. Then came the dreams. Listen, Joseph said one day, I had a dream. We were binding sheaves in the field, and suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around and bowed down to mine. The brothers sneered. You think you're going to reign over us? Rule us? Their hatred grew. Then another dream. I saw the sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to me. Even his father rebuked him. Will your mother and I and your brothers bow down to you? But Jacob kept the matter in mind. Sometime later, the older brothers went to graze their flocks near Shechem. Jacob sent Joseph to check on them. See how your brothers are doing and the flocks. Bring me back a report. So Joseph went. But the brothers had moved to Dothan. As Joseph approached across the fields, they saw him from a distance. And before he even reached them, they plotted. Here comes the dreamer, one of them said. Let's kill him. Throw him into a pit. Say a wild animal devoured him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But Reuben, the oldest, spoke up. Don't shed his blood. Throw him into the cistern in the wilderness, but don't lay a hand on him. He planned to rescue Joseph later. When Joseph arrived, smiling, unaware, they stripped him of his robe, the colorful one, the symbol of their resentment, and they threw him into a dry pit. Then they sat down and ate lunch. As they ate, a caravan of Ishmaelite traders appeared on the horizon, coming from Gilead, loaded with spices, balm, and myrrh, heading to Egypt. Judah had an idea. What will we gain by killing him? Let's sell him. He's our brother after all. So they pulled Joseph from the pit and sold him for 20 shekels of silver. And just like that, he was gone. Reuben returned later and found the pit empty. He tore his clothes. The boy is gone. What now shall I do? They took Joseph's robe, dipped it in goat's blood, and brought it to Jacob. Is this your son's robe? Jacob recognized it instantly. He cried out, It is my son's robe. A wild beast has devoured him. He tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for many days. No one could comfort him. "I will go down to the grave mourning my son," he said. Meanwhile, in Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. And so began a journey of slavery, sorrow, and the sovereignty of God. The dreamer had fallen, but the dream, it had only just begun. Genesis 38, the woman who would not be forgotten, retold in dramatic storytelling style. While Joseph was being taken to Egypt, Judah walked away. He left his brothers and went down to stay with a man named Hira in Adullam. There he saw the daughter of a Canaanite named Shua. He married her. She bore him 3 sons, Onan, and Shelah. When grew up, Judah arranged for him to marry a woman named Tamar. But was wicked in the eyes of the Lord, so God put him to death. Judah told Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife and fulfill your duty, raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew the child wouldn't be his. So whenever he slept with Tamar, he spilled his seed on the ground, refusing to provide an heir. God saw his selfishness and struck him down too. Now 2 sons were dead, and Judah grew afraid. So he said to Tamar, "Go live as a widow in your father's house. When my youngest Shelah is old enough, I'll send for you." But he had no intention of giving her his last son. So Tamar waited and waited. Years passed. Then Judah's wife died. After mourning, he went up to Timnah to shear his sheep at his side. Tamar heard, "Judah is going to Timnah." So she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil, and sat by the road near Enaim. Shelah had grown up, but no one had sent for her. She knew Judah had no plans to keep his word. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute because of the veil. He approached her. "Let me sleep with you," he said, not knowing she was Tamar. She replied, "What will you give me?" "A young goat from my flock." "Give me a pledge until you send it." "What pledge?" "Your seal, your cord, and your staff." He gave them. They slept together, and she conceived. Then she left, returned home, and put back on her widow's clothes. Datsar, city. Judah later sent a goat through Hira to retrieve his pledge, but she was gone. No one had seen a prostitute there. Embarrassed, Judah said, "Let her keep the pledge. We'll avoid public shame." 3 months later, word came. "Tamar is pregnant. She played the harlot." Judah was furious. "Bring her out. Let her be burned." But as they dragged her out, she sent a message. "I am pregnant by the man who owns these. Do you recognize this seal, this cord, this staff?" Judah froze. It was his. He whispered, "She is more righteous than I. I wouldn't give her my son." And he never touched her again. When the time came to give birth, there were twins in her womb. During delivery, one baby reached out a hand. The midwife tied a scarlet thread around it. But then he pulled his hand back, and his brother came out first. She exclaimed, "What a breach you have made for yourself." So they named him Perez, the breakthrough. His brother with the scarlet thread was named Zerah. And so from scandal and silence came a line of kings. From Tamar's persistence would one day come David, and through David, the Messiah. God's promise flows not only through perfection, but through the broken who dare to fight for justice. Genesis 39, temptation, injustice, and a God who stays. Retold in cinematic storytelling style. Joseph arrived in Egypt a slave, sold like a thing, torn from home, but God was still with him. He was bought by Potiphar, an Egyptian official, captain of Pharaoh's guard. And from the moment Joseph entered that house, things changed. God blessed everything Joseph touched. Potiphar saw it, so he promoted Joseph quickly. Soon Joseph was running the entire household. Fields, finances, food, servants, everything. Potiphar trusted him so much, he worried about nothing but his meals. And Joseph? He was young, wise, handsome, and someone noticed. Potiphar's wife. She watched him day after day. And finally, she said the words, "Sleep with me." Joseph froze. "No, my master trusts me. He's given me everything but you. You're his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" She didn't stop. Day after day, she pursued him. But Joseph refused. He didn't even want to be near her. Then one day, no one else was in the house. Joseph came in to do his work, and she grabbed his cloak. "Sleep with me." He tore himself away, leaving his cloak in her hands, and ran. She stared at the cloak. Her desire turned to rage. She called the servants. "That Hebrew slave tried to assault me." I screamed, and he ran. "See, he left his cloak." Later, she told the same story to Potiphar. "Your slave mocked me." But I screamed, and he fled. Potiphar burned with anger. He had Joseph thrown into prison, the place where the king's prisoners were kept. But again, the Lord was with Joseph. Even in chains, even in the dark, God showed him kindness and gave him favor in the eyes of the prison warden. Before long, Joseph was in charge even in prison. He organized the inmates, oversaw the work, and the warden, he trusted Joseph completely. Because everything Joseph did, God made it prosper. They took his robe, they took his freedom, but they could never take the presence of God. Joseph was in prison, but he was not alone.